Welcome to this conversation with members of the Giving Pledge. I'm Elizabeth Farnsworth. I'm a special correspondent for the PBS NewsHour. The three people on stage with me have promised in a public letter a giving pledge to give more than half their wealth to philanthropy. The pledge is a program founded by Warren Buffett and Bill and Melinda Gates and is aimed at promoting more charitable giving, especially among the very wealthy in the United States and abroad. As of tonight, 59 others, couples and individuals, have joined the effort. Why? What inspires someone to give away half his or her wealth in such a public way? To find out tonight, we turn to John Morgridge, Chairman Emeritus of Cisco. He teaches management at Stanford University's Graduate School of Business and serves on its School of Business Advisory Council. To Tashia Morgridge, co-founder of the TOSA Foundation and a member of the board of numerous organizations, including the Science Center and the Stanford Schools Corporation. And to Lorry, founder, chairman, and chief executive officer emeritus of Business Wire, an international media relations wire service headquartered in San Francisco, which he sold to Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway in 2006.
You don't look like billionaires.
Mr. Lokey serves as a trustee on numerous boards, including the San Francisco Opera Association and Santa Clara University. David Rubenstein isn't with us tonight because he was very close to Sidney Harmon and wants to be with his family tonight. So let's start. I want to start with how you each first heard about the pledge, and then we'll get into why you signed. Tashia, beginning with you. You were at the first dinner, you and John were, hosted by David Rockefeller in New York, where the Giving Pledge was discussed. Who invited you? And tell us a little bit about the dinner.
Well, as I recall, we got a letter in the mail inviting us to this, and we were at our summer home in New Hampshire, and I think we had a neighborhood party that was going to be happening on the same date. So John and I looked at each other and said, I think we should stay here. We shouldn't probably go to this. And then as we learned a little bit more about it, we thought, well, maybe we'll go. And so we did, and we went down. I think we didn't even stay overnight, as I recall. We just went down from New Hampshire, down for this dinner. We didn't quite even know where it was. It was on the grounds of the Rockefeller University in the president's house, which was hard to find. And we were walking. We were not in a limo that dropped us off at the entrance. So we were asking people, and they were giving this funny look at this couple that's walking down the street. But we did find it, and there were maybe 15 or 20 people perhaps there that evening, and it was quite an informal gathering, and we sort of went around the table and introduced ourselves. We didn't talk too much about what our personal philanthropy goals were. We just kind of got to know each other and talk a little bit about the concept of the Giving Pledge. And maybe, John, you
have John, tell us about how, I mean, in a way, what we all want to know is how was the pitch made to you? I mean, what did they say?
Well, actually, that dinner was a formative dinner.
Yeah.
And there was not an ask. There was an idea and a discussion of the idea and a discussion on how you might promote it, because they struck out their goal of attempting to reach the 400 list on a world basis.
The Forbes 400.
Right. And so the actual pledge was not, they didn't ask for it at that time. And it came subsequently, and it came, I think it came by email, didn't it? It was a low-cost operation other than the dinner.
And very low-key.
You didn't track it.
Did they warn you before you came, and did you have any input into how all of this would happen at this formative dinner? I mean, in other words, did they warn you what this was going to be about?
I think they were interested in the methodology of accomplishing it, and they were interested in what might be the selling features of it, and how that ought to be packaged. And as we went around the table, you know, people had ideas of doing videos and interviews, none of which ever really came to pass. But in terms of promoting it. And what they did settle on was this dinner format, but they've only had a few. They probably had less than 6, maybe.
I'm going to stay with these dinners for a while. I'll get to Lorry in just a minute because we have a lot of questions for you too. But Warren Buffett has said that he felt like a psychiatrist sometimes at these dinners. Why did he say that? What happens at the dinners that he's acting in some sort of counselor role?
Well, one of the things you know, I mean, these are private sessions, and so they talked, people talked about what they were going to do with their money.
Yeah.
You know, one of the present member in New York said, I want to give all of it away so that the check to the undertaker bounces. That was his goal. But he had said, well, he was going to put the money in a foundation, and he had his ex-wife, his current wife, his girlfriend all on the board. And he said, that'll be a great meeting.
No wonder he felt like a psychiatrist. So, staying with you for a minute, did you decide that night, or how did you make the decision to eventually take the pledge?
Well, you know,
No, I'm going to come to you in 1 second.
Oh.
With us, things sort of evolve. We don't say, okay, we're going to decide this tonight over cocktails or something. I think we both kind of think about things, and it's sort of, the decision sort of arrives. But part of it was we'd already been doing this. This was not a new concept for us. We're already giving away a lot of our wealth and intended to continue to give it away. So it wasn't anything that was a huge decision. It was more a decision to be part of this pledge rather than just independently doing the things that we had been doing.
Okay, I'll come back to that in a minute, the reasons for it and why it's a good idea and all of that. How did you hear about the pledge?
A guy from Omaha called me, and I recognized the voice because he conned me out of my company for hundreds of millions of dollars, which immediately went out.
So you were likely to want to do what he said, right?
Yeah. Hey, Warren calls on the phone, and hi, Warren. Last time I talked to him, I was trying to get him to give $100 million more for the company. So, hi, Warren, what's up? He says, I'd like you to join a special club where you pledge half of your money between now and Decadence Day or whatever. And I said, Warren, you're late. I did that 4 years ago. I gave it all. I only have a few million left. I'm a poor Atherton boy. So he said, yes, that's why we want you in, because you're a good example. Oh, I felt like an angel. But
you could have said, I've done it. No.
Well,
I don't want to make this public gesture.
Oh, I don't mind.
Why'd you say
because
yes?
it will encourage other people. You're probably doing the same reason. When you pitch in and do it, make it public, it encourages others. We got all kinds of billionaires sitting on their rear ends doing nothing. There are 410 of them? Jeez, I used to be one.
So did you actually say yes on the phone right away?
Oh, right away.
No kidding.
Oh, no, because the money was already gone.
So it was easy.
Yeah, but that's why he wanted me as a part of it, as an example of how much beyond 50% you can go. And you know, if you have $5 billion and you keep 50 million for yourself, you can do pretty well. So why not give $4,500,000,000 where it'll do some good?
And have you spoken to anybody else about?
I don't have 50 million either.
Have you spoken to anybody else about this, or is that not your way? Are you just going to do it and hope that your example?
If I run into someone in a natural setting, fine, but I don't like to ask people for money. I never asked my parents. Of course, they never gave me any either. But no, I just am uncomfortable asking for money. I'd make a lousy development director.
It's tough.
These people out here can teach me a lesson.
I'm going to get back to your parents in a minute because I'm interested in that too, and your backgrounds and why you were likely to do this. But why did you sign, John? Why did you both decide to do it? I mean, aside from being part of the effort.
We actually had made the decision back about 10 years earlier that we weren't going to let the federal government or someone else give away our money, and that we wanted to do it ourselves. And it's been a lot of fun doing it. It's a lot of work, but it's been a lot of fun. So it was an easy decision, as Tashia pointed out. The decision was really whether or not to make it public. And I think we made it public for much the same reasons. This valley has a lot of wealth, and for my taste, a disproportionate amount of it is spent on homes that they live in for 2 weeks a year and things like that. And so I think, we didn't create all this wealth. We capitalized on an environment that permitted us to create the wealth.
What did your children think? First, the two of you. Tashia, what did your children think? And then, Lorry, I want to hear about your family, too.
Well, it's interesting. In listening to this discussion so far, one of the things when we started out being philanthropists, we were very quiet philanthropists. Often we were anonymous. Many of our big gifts were anonymous. And as time went on, people found out anyway. And it became much less quiet. And we finally realized that it was kind of a sham, that we were not anonymous, and we did become more public with the kinds of things that we've been doing. And this kind of came at the right time. We had already decided to be public about our giving, so we were comfortable, I think, in signing this. And I think our children came along at the same time with this. Our children also have, they have their own ability to give. We have made sure before we gave it all away that they are very comfortable also. And they are too, they are also philanthropists. So that I think by the time we decided to become more public, they were more comfortable with our doing so.
I'm going to come back to the public issue, too, because I think that's of interest to people here. How'd your family feel and your significant other about giving this money away?
Oh, they set the example for me. My parents did. In the heart of the Depression, I remember as far back as 1933 when I was 6 years old, they were giving $100 a year, and my dad was barely earning $1,200 a year. That's what I call tithing.
And that's the example that you're following.
And year after year. And by the time I was 8, I was saying, why are you doing this? We can't afford it. Oh, yes, we can.
And this was right at the height of the Depression.
Yep.
What about your children and your significant other now?
They definitely are givers. Yes, my youngest daughter especially got a chair for me at Mills College, an equivalent of that at Peninsula Jewish Community Center for her mother. The middle daughter the elder daughter gives at least 10%. The middle daughter has given quite a bit of money to the high school her kids grew up in. By the way, John, I thought you were almost going to say it, but when all this greenery rolls in, it gets to a point where you say, hey, this is too good. Let's put some back in the earth and get a new crop. Let's enrich in the earth.
Right.
And that's what this is all about.
Do you think that being public, Tashia and John, has helped you have more of an impact because you're more directly involved that way publicly? Do you think that it improves the impact of the philanthropy that you are involved in?
Well, I give you two examples. One is, for a long time, we've done a lot of matching of employee giving at Cisco. And I think that's had a very positive impact, not only in the United States, but in countries where that hasn't been traditional, like India and China, and to some degree, even Western Europe. So certainly that part of it has broadened the base. I think, now I forgot the question.
Well, I'm actually getting at whether I think one of you has said that, I read that you said that by giving your money now, you can actually be very involved in some of it, and you can perhaps have more impact that way because you're there talking about it, you can follow up with it. And is that part of being public with it?
Yeah. You know, one of the things I learned at Cisco was that companies have a lot more assets than just dollars. And the tradition has always been to give dollars. And they have so much more to offer. Everything from a global footprint to knowledge, to a business model, to processes. And those often are more valuable than the money they give. And so it's that kind of leverage that we've always looked for and in trying to accomplish our giving.
Well, and I think too, in most of the things that we give to, we're involved with in some way. Whether it's reading programs in East Palo Alto, where I'm in the city quite often, or if it's giving through CARE or the Nature Conservancy, we're on those boards and we're directly involved. We travel to different parts of the world to see the programs that they have. So it's our personal involvement, which does make you more public because you are there meeting the people. So that's been part of, I think, our public image. And I think we've been influential in that way because people, I think, appreciate the fact that we're involved. We know what the organizations are. We understand them. We know what their work is. And I think that the organizations energize us, and I think to a certain degree we energize them. And I think that's, in addition to the donations we make, I think that's been important.
And Lorry, you've said that this is the most fun you've ever had in your life
sure.
doing this.
Oh yeah, when you give big enough, you can endow whole projects, and when they get done, you can stand there and look at it and admire. You can give $20–30 million for student aid, and late in the spring, the letters roll in from the students thanking you. It's a wonderful life. And by the way, John, this Cisco stock at $20, I got 30,000 shares. It's all pledged. But if you can get the price to double, I can start a whole new program.
We'd like that too.
I love it.
Yeah, well, you know, at one time when Cisco was $500 billion, I was a lot richer man also.
So what has changed for you as a result of signing the Giving Pledge? Beginning with you, has anything changed? Are you inundated with requests?
No, nothing. I was a bit surprised, but I got the usual ones I always get, the handwritten one once a week, wanting money for a new kitchen, or to remodel a car, fix the car. Very legitimate ones, but they're not in the education field or areas that I know. I give to areas I know. I know the schools well. I I sure know the dog pound well. That's down for only $50,000 or so. But they impounded my dog so many times. Now they give me a free jail ticket because I'm giving them the money. But no, giving is fun. The book I would write would be The Joy of Giving, and then to encourage sales, throw in the joy of sex and the joy of this and that.
The book's going to sell.
Yeah.
And how about you both? Tashia, has anything changed for you since you signed?
I don't think so. I don't think it's
We've
much.
been big givers in our home state of Wisconsin, and for two reasons. Number one, we aren't there all the time, so we don't get a lot of local requests. And the second is we can afford Wisconsin. We couldn't afford California. You know? It's too big and too costly.
Are you you're not inundated with more requests?
We're always have been.
So that hasn't changed.
So I don't think it's gotten.
No.
I don't think there are any more. No.
How?
I think the only change is that the requests, we get more large requests than we probably did before.
You hosted the third dinner in Menlo Park, wasn't it?
Right.
John, tell us a little bit about that dinner, if you can, anybody that was there, and whether did you
already
ask
pledged.
at the dinner
We'll have
specifically?
another one.
Okay.
How did you handle this dinner where
Well,
you're trying
number
to
one,
get people
we
to sign?
only did the inviting. The Gateses and Warren were the hosts, and they're probably people. So we sent out the letters, and we did some of the follow-up. But the actual program was theirs, and it was very similar to the one in New York City. It discussed both kind of what they were doing philanthropically now, what their goals were longer term, what the relationship was with their children, and how they were dealing with that part of all the money that they had earned. And I think those were the major subjects that were discussed. And out of that group, I don't even remember how many signed the pledge, how well we did.
I don't think very well, actually.
Well,
I know one that signed.
Yeah. I think that was maybe.
No, there were two. No, the other, yeah. I think there was
So
only
Tashia,
one.
what kind of
So we didn't do very well.
Well-
But we're trying again.
Well, I wanted to ask you if you think it's going well, and also what kind of questions people raised, what kind of criticisms and what kind of doubts.
Well, I think a lot of people were dealing with what to do with their children.
Yeah.
That seemed to be, and I don't know, sometimes when you have a dinner conversation, and this was at one table, so everybody was all
Involved.
together. And I think sometimes if a topic comes up, the topic can continue around the table. And I think to a certain extent that may be what happened, because there was discussion about, well, with one particular couple I can remember, they said, well, we've given our children all we're going to give them. They aren't getting any more, and that was it. Another one said that their children weren't getting anything because their children had not been very nice recently. And so, and
This is
then
why
there
Warren
were,
Buffett said he
and
felt
then
like
there
a
was the
shrink.
other extreme of people who had given to their children, whose children were most supportive of their parents' philanthropy. And so it was kind of that, a lot of the discussion was on that topic.
I would also say that I was a little surprised in both dinners that there were a fair number of the people that really had no philanthropic plan. And that now there were some young people, but the vast majority of these people were probably 50 or older. And of course, I guess when we were 50, we didn't have a philanthropic plan either.
Well, didn't have anything to give.
Well, that was
Not
part
much.
of it.
And isn't this part of the point of the Giving Pledge? Warren Buffett always says that people wait till too late and then they're
Yes,
not as able
right.
to make decisions.
Right.
And Lorry, do you think that this can go further down? I mean, where can this go now? Should there be a Facebook page where people are encouraged to give money, something for younger people, something for millionaires and people who are not millionaires? How do you think this should go now?
I don't think being a millionaire should be a judgment. The people should look at what they bring in each year, look at the 10% figure, and if they can do more or almost 10, they're really doing great. And believe me, the person earning, say, $30,000 a year that gives $2,000 is hurting a lot more than when I give $1 million. It is a big effort, and I have deep respect for that group of people. When the campaign is on, for example, to raise money for a religious institution or school or a hospital, I have such deep respect for people giving less than $10,000 that they possibly can't afford because they feel it's a thing to do, it's a right thing to do. Our group are few in number, and they need us too. And then you have a fairly sizable middle group where they can give 100,000 or $500,000. You need all three of these groups. You can't exist by the rich kids alone or the poor kids alone. And giving is so, it feels so good. It does. And actually, I was well into it by the time I was 50. In the case of my kids, I gave them a pittance and said, this is your inheritance. The pittance was a few $100,000. Unfortunately, it was Business Wire stock, and Warren paid dearly for it. And now I got what you call rich kids. But they're doing their job. But my attitude, this will drive Joanne nuts when she hears it. My attitude toward kids is let them earn their own damn money. Let them make a name for themselves. Yes, we can give help, but let them row their own boat to what they really should be at.
What do you think about that?
You asked the question about goal. The beauty about the goal is we didn't have one. So at any level, we can claim success. But certainly 50 or 60, I think they're going to announce some more shortly. Even at 75, I mean, that's an impact, but I'm sure that the expectation would be that we would get to at least half of those folks. One of the problems, quite frankly, is there are a lot of rich people who are not liquid, and particularly outside the United States. So they can have a lot of money, but they don't have liquid money. You know, it's a family corporation. It's going to be passed on generation to generation. And so it's a different kind of rich than than some of the rich here in Silicon Valley, where it's a lot of it's very liquid money.
Has anybody said they don't want to be public now in a time when so many people are unemployed and losing their homes?
I have not heard that. Yeah. There are some people that don't want to be public, though.
All right, I'm going to come back to the international aspects of this, but first I'm going to read some criticisms of the Giving Pledge and let you respond to this. Pablo Eisenberg of Georgetown, he says, big funders tend to give money to universities, hospitals, med centers, arts institutions, not social service groups helping poor and minorities. At a time of cutbacks in these services, the Giving Pledge is unlikely to help.
My answer to that is that you can't give large amounts to those kinds of organizations. You know, you can't give $50 million. They don't have the infrastructure. One of the beauties, you know, if you look at universities and you go back 100 years and you list the universities, guess what? If you list them today, the names are the same. So they exist over a long period of time. They have multiple generation impact. To some degree, hospitals are the same way. They impact not only life today, but life on out into the future, which really is a kind of your epitaph or your, your post-life existence is in those. So and to say that they don't give, most of us all give small amounts to all those organizations, and usually on an annual basis.
Didn't you give a lot to the Community Foundation?
They manage my money, yes.
And that,
they manage about half of it.
Except the Cisco stock, he managed that himself.
All right.
You should have, by the way, sold it a year ago.
Yeah, but you know, I still say Warren owes me $100 million because we're doing well. John, your point is awfully good about the depth of organization of these people, and there I would look at 100,000, a 250, based on matching or based on going into endowment and that type of thing. I'm a bug on endowment, whether the name be Stanford or Oregon or whatever. I've given to 2 colleges and 1 high school that are 57 to 100% minority. 1 college and 1 high school is all Latino. Mills College, believe it or not, is 57% minority. And these kids are bright. They're so bright that the bar to get in is climbing higher and higher. And whoever said that this race or that color is dumb?
Yeah.
They're not. We're born equally, and if we get the appropriate amount of education right from the cradle, there's nothing to keep you from Stanford, MIT, Technion, or Weissman.
Yeah.
Another criticism, this is from Ellen Remner. Quote, "You have to remember the reason we've had this golden age of philanthropy is because we've had this incredible concentration of wealth, and the pledge is a reminder of that." What's your response to that?
Oops, I got to think that one over. Say it again, though.
You have to remember the reason we've had this golden age of philanthropy is because we've had an incredible concentration of wealth, and the pledge is a reminder of that.
Even in Depression days, which I remember so well, there was wealth, but not on the scale like today. This is inflated wealth, for one thing. But we will have times in the future when there won't be this wealth, but there will still be proportionately high giving. And I think that the club here that's been formed is possibly the first of its kind. And you mentioned some of the social networks, an excellent idea for feeding on it. But I think we're going to see more of this develop. I would love to see central offices of the Catholic and Jewish and Protestant religions bearing down harder on legacy giving, where you put things in a will after death, charitable remainder trusts, outright gifts, donor advised funds. I think that we're moving into an era where people are more conscious, are being made more conscious of the importance of giving, and that this has not really happened before. And this is why it took me 2 seconds to say yes to Warren, because it's a pioneer situation.
Tashia, do you have any response to that?
I can't see that that's a criticism. To me, it's a
reality.
It's a fact. It is true. I mean, in a different era, in my parents living in Wisconsin, this would have been totally out of their realm of thinking, because this is a totally different era. And I think it's just a fact that, yes, this has been an era that has produced great wealth, and therefore there is an opportunity for something such as the Giving Pledge. And to me, I think it's a positive.
You know, this country went through a period where we thought the government could solve a lot of these problems, and we put a lot of money into that program, and those programs, some of them survived, but a lot of them failed. And so I think there is kind of this feeling that government can't do it all. I think government has to be a player, and I think you can take programs where you leverage off of government and I hope they don't totally get out of the business, but I don't think that the country is prepared to let government do it. And so philanthropy has to be one leg in the stool that provides some kind of a more equal playing field for all people in this country and around the world, for that matter.
You're not worried that what somebody calls the mega foundations, which aren't responding as an elected official has to respond, have too much power? I mean, whether you're a liberal or a conservative, you have somebody to complain about that you think has too much influence, whether it's the Kochs or George Soros. You're not worried about that?
You're not worried about the lobbyists in Washington, D.C. that influence how government money is spent? You know, you're not worried about the money that is available now without even putting your name on it to influence politics in this country? I mean, you have to live with the realities of all of those, of all of that environment. And to say that we're less trustworthy than the government, or we're less trustworthy than the government, or than the lobbyists, or we're less trustworthy than the corporation, I don't think you can prove that case.
Also, John, or maybe you commented on it about assets being tied up. I think you did, John.
Yeah.
This is very true. In fact, for the majority of billionaires in that category,
right.
I would guess that's correct.
Yeah.
They can't come up with $100 million tomorrow night. But they certainly can specify things in their will. They can set up the legacies
right.
with hospitals or Gates Foundation type of thing. There's so much they can do to declare themselves right now, and they need to get over this kick about the kids. It's amazing what $5 million will do for one person.
Right.
People are looking to you. I mean, I think I'm really interested when I've talked to people about, and even today, about this discussion. Many people are looking to you because this is a new, as you said, this is something really new and different. It's been in the news a lot. Do you think that you can serve as a model also for certain, I know people talk about good practices, and there are practices that people recommend for making philanthropy have more of an impact. Are you trying, let's start with you, John, and Tashia, let's start with you, and then John, and then Lorry. Are you trying to have an impact in that way too?
I don't know that it's an intentional kind of thing, but I think we're very proud of the things that we have done philanthropically, and I think we're not uncomfortable being role models. I think partly because we are so personally invested in the programs themselves and in the people who are involved in running the various programs. And I think I'm comfortable with it because of my level of involvement, in addition to the financial grants that we're able to make.
My observation would be that, that each develops your own kind of model. And, you know, our model is we have one part-time employee. So we're very involved in what we do. And all of our large gifts have been in things that we are personally involved in. You know, we've just launched a new project in Wisconsin called the Wisconsin Technology Initiative. We're going there next week
Tuesday.
As part of the decision on where that money is going, the first round of that money is going. A lot of people can't do that. They either don't have the inclination or the time to do it. So they have to use a different model. So this model works for us. I don't know that it could work. It certainly doesn't work for everyone. But many people have some structure off of that model, where they have some level of involvement. but they may have a greater support capability than we necessarily have.
You know, the word philanthropy turns me off. It makes me very uncomfortable. It's like you're something special and big, and I don't like that because I think there's so many people that do so much more in relation to what they can do. I learned the rudiments of philanthropy 80 years ago. Several times a summer, my mother would march my brother, my younger brother, and me down to the drugstore, my brother in the baby buggy, and she'd buy an ice cream for herself, for me rather. And one time, as we're crossing the street to return back 3 blocks to home, he said, "Lorry, let me taste your ice cream." "Oh, it's mine." Immediately, she took the ice cream cone and ate every bit of it. And I howled like a banshee. I had only my shirt to lick. A couple of weeks later, we go for the ice cream. We cross the street. "Mommy, would you like some ice cream?" You know, philanthropy is a word I don't like. I like the word sharing.
Sharing.
Because that takes in everyone, takes in everything. And we share what we can share. Our kind of sharing is huge because it's absolute surplus. And some philanthropy is business-oriented to accomplish something. The other kind of philanthropy is giving for the joy of it and for the wonderful event that when you step back and see what that money bought. And after a few of these things, at Stanford, my joy is the Stanford Stem Cell Lab. It took a lot of money, but as I said in the dedication, over the next 10 years, 100 million people that would have died might be alive.
And before I get into the future and the international aspects of the Giving Pledge, let me just ask one question of all of you. Are you allocating your for-profit investment portfolios to make an impact? Starting with you, Lorry.
Are you doing what?
Are you allocating your for-profit investment portfolios to make an impact?
I've given it all away already.
Oh, you don't have one anymore. How about you all?
No, and the reason is that if we did that, we'd have to spend, that's a capability that we would probably have to hire. Now, we have told the individual or the organization that manages our funds in the TOSA Foundation that there are certain things we don't want them to invest in, but I wouldn't say that, and you know, if you look across the spectrum, that's a very hard thing to accomplish, very hard. And a lot of it's based on kind of your personal opinion. You know, at Stanford, relative to their investment portfolio, the thing that they set as the standard is that if there is some unanimity on a broad basis that this is a deleterious kind of investment, then they would not invest in it. But just because some one party or a group of 10 students believes that it is that, you know, otherwise you probably wouldn't invest in almost anything.
What happens next with the Giving Pledge? Is it going to become an organization where you'll have meetings and you'll discuss and you'll learn from each other, or what happens next?
The incentive for me is when I say I gave it all away, I still have some of my own money around, but over the next 3 to 5 years, I expect to take the existing foundation monies at Stanford and Silicon Valley and have it grow another $60 to $80 million and start the whole cycle over to 6 entities in Israel. Then by 2020, if I can still see and walk and talk, I will start another series to be applied to certain select places here in the Bay Area, especially a couple of hospitals.
And will the Giving Pledge, will you go to meetings and discuss this, or what will it do?
If there are meetings, I'll gladly go. And the Giving Pledge, in a way, is an incentive to me. It reminds me that, hey, I've got a job to do.
How about you all? What's the Giving Pledge? How do you see it in the future? Do you see it as a big part of your life, or?
No, we don't see it as a big part of our life, although we are supportive of we've done some additional solicitation, and I would expect at some point that the group will gather, just very similar to the dinner setup.
You think you'll have another dinner?
We're pushing for one.
Yeah, we are.
So it's in a way you're organizing. You're organizers. Really?
Well, not really, because usually, well, the way it's been working is that Bill and Melinda Gates and Warren they are the organizers, and we would be willing to do another dinner, and they know that, and we would give one if they asked us to.
Right.
But they are the organizers.
And what are the international prospects for the Giving Pledge? How do you see that?
I know that the Gateses and Warren have done some international travel and talked to some individuals internationally. I don't know more than that.
And for a long time, you know, the international wealth was even more locked up than the domestic wealth. That's changed a little bit, principally in China, because you know a lot of those companies have come and gone, done IPOs. I think there were 29 IPOs of Chinese companies in the United States last year, and probably more than that on the Chinese exchanges. So that money, there is money coming there, and Warren and Bill went to China.
And India.
And India?
I think so.
India.
And we have just a few minutes left, but I want to give you one chance. This is quite an audience here. There's a real multiplier effect in this audience. And I want to give each of you a chance, just very briefly, to say anything that you would like to say about the pledge and your philanthropy to the people in this room before we go, starting with you.
Oh, hi, Olivia. How are you? Would you give Bill a message for me? Tell him let's get some merchandising going on the pledge, on programs like CNBC at night, 60 Minutes, these various programs. It's a wonderful story to tell. And there could be as many stories as there are people participating. And this way we spread the good word.
Olivia Leland is one of the main administrators of the Giving Pledge, by the way, at the Gates Foundation. Yeah. Tashia, how about you?
I guess the message would be that giving is a lot of fun. We've done it at various levels. We started out as graduates of the University of Wisconsin. We each gave $10 to the Alumni Association. And as our circumstances have changed, we've added zeros to that, and now we're up to pretty many zeros, and it's just as much fun as it was, and it feels just as good as it did when we gave the $10 or the $100 or the $1,000 and on up. And so I guess I encourage everybody to give to things that touch your heart. And I hope that more people who are considered to be wealthy will continue to give at a level that is maybe a stretch even for them, and that they will join the Giving Pledge too.
I guess my observation would be that that irrespective of the size of the check, the individual can get very involved and have impact in an organization based on, you know, they've developed a set of talents over time, and many organizations can use those talents. And I'm also amazed that a large check is different for various organizations. You know, you'd be surprised the impact a $10,000 check can have, as an example, or even a $5,000 check, or a commitment to $5,000 over a period of 2, 3, or 4 years. It buys you entree into the organization where you can apply a lot of your other talents. And, you know, I've found that, as your experience has demonstrated, education has a lot of appeal over and above just that many of them are substantial institutions. You get to deal with young people, and we get the most, just like you, we get the most wonderful letters from people about how this has impacted, how it's changed what they're doing, the freedom it's given them to explore and spend more time, or you know, some of them go to Europe get a trip as a result of it. And that doesn't take, you know, $3,000 can have a huge impact on an individual. One of the first things we did, which has always been a real kick, is we set up scholarships, one scholarship every year for 4 years from our high school. And every year we would have a dinner, and we still do. And the high school and the kids that got the scholarship would come to the dinner. I mean, it was like having your own children again, because you could see them. I mean, we had a pair of twins. That's when we went to 2 scholarships, because they were going to split it. And we said, no, we'll pay for 2 scholarships. And they came in as the most awkward set of young ladies, and by the end, at the end of the 4 years, there they were in the high spiked heels with a boyfriend on their arm, you know, and one was in biology.
Doing research at the university.
Right, they were doing research. I mean, it was just, to be part of that life is just so, so rewarding. So you don't have to, as I said, you know, pick your high school, give them 1 scholarship. Get to know the student. It's great fun.
Please join me in thanking these wonderful people for being part of this. Thank you.